I actually have a caller on the line with some interest in Myers-Briggs. So let me actually touch base with Nate. Nate, what are you curious about?
Hello, Christy. Hello, Andy. Here I am on Secular Sexuality.
Howdy,
How you
sir.
guys doing?
Hey, not too bad.
Love it.
Hey, I had a question about these Myers-Briggs tests because my impression, and admittedly as a layperson, was that these tests were sort of debunked as useful. Because they can't really make predictions. They can't really tell you, are you going to be compatible with this person? Are you going to like your new job? And like, I kind of wonder whether assigning humanity to a certain set of 16 possibilities, like it kind of reminds me of astrology. And the problem for me with Myers-Briggs, and again, I'm open to having my mind changed. I'm just asking questions here.
Love it.
The problem for me is that you're answering the question. So at some point, does it not reflect who you want to be or who you wish you were, rather than what you actually are? And is that useful in practice? I kind of want to hear you guys talk about that.
Yeah, well, I'm going to let Andy take that. But before I do, I guess to your point, Nate, I was telling Andy a story before the show about an experience my partner and I had recently when we were looking to find couples counseling, and we're going through a consultation with another therapist. And it was all of the problems that you're suggesting. This was basically, it was the opposite of the episode we did last time Andy was here, when we talked about how to find the right therapist for you. I'm very sorry if she happens to be watching. I don't mean to hurt her feelings, but it was just a terrible consultation, in large part because
I don't want to be offensive, but it was terrible.
Now I'm saying with all due respect, yeah, she had us take a very quick and dirty Myers-Briggs test, and then was looking at the comparison between my partner and I, and was like, oh, I bet your relationship must be like this, and I bet you must have conflict around this, as if she could tell us about our relationship rather than ask us about our relationship. And so there is that challenge of trying to take something that might be true in aggregate, and when we're talking about large numbers of test takers, and then trying to force it into a particular scenario or situation. Anyway, I just wanted to jump in with that story. But Andy, tell me how you respond to Nate's question.
Yeah, I think, Nate, you're going to hate that I'm saying this, but I think the person who asks that is a certain type. But anyway,
okay, Andy, tell me what type I am, because I've actually like every teenager alive, I have taken this test multiple times. So to take a wild guess.
Let me ENTJ.
That doesn't feel that far off.
Okay, well, I retract my question as far as predictive abilities, because you literally just nailed it. Wow.
Holy shit. There we go. Well, I think that
you did literally ENTJ. Every time I've taken this, it's ENTJ. Yeah.
I think to answer your question, the big thing is what are you trying to get out of it? So if you're taking the Myers-Briggs and you're like, ooh, I really want to be really cool, well, then you're not taking the Myers-Briggs for the right reason. If you're taking the Myers-Briggs to being well, I want to understand myself more, well, then that's the right reason. So faking the questions will get you a result in one way or the other. But if we think what I was saying earlier about symbolic versus sign, so a symbol versus a sign, what does being an extrovert mean to you?
Right.
What does being an intuitive mean to you? And how can you think about that whenever you are hanging out with friends and applying that throughout your life? So it's not that it's oh, I have this score and I'm good to go. It's more kind of how can I apply this as a tool for the future. But, I also want to say before I end responding to you that I'm totally the same way. Like, I don't like being pigeonholed to one thing or the other. And that's why I'm very reluctant to be kind of like with a client on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling today? Because that that feels reductive to me, unless I'm doing a line graph and I'm seeing like what's going on with them. I totally get what you mean about being like, I'm more than just these letters. So I want to just honor that also. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just as a therapist, that's one reason why I don't lean into these kinds of things. But I do want to say, even if we might have questions about their efficacy in terms of like therapeutic value, that the incredible amount of data that we have about the accuracy of these measurements is pretty significant. Psychometrics is maybe one area of psychology where we see tons and tons of like numerical, like mathematically calculated accuracy. And in a like developing and very like squishy, soft, human-based science, that's something to maybe take some real interest in.
Yeah. I think that's right.
Christy, how accurate was your couples therapist?
Oh man, so far off. So and that to me is the significant thing about counseling just as a profession. And I really appreciated so much of what Andy said in that episode where we talked about how to find a good therapist. And I would encourage folks to take a look at it if you didn't catch it, and if that's a stage in life that you're at right now. But people are individuals and they want to talk about themselves. And so much of therapy is the therapist getting the hell out of the way and providing that opportunity. So to come in and say, well, you are this, this, and this because I read it in a book, to me is like really anathema to the entire notion of what we're here to do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I'm quite impressed that you pegged me for that, Andy.
I knew the J. I got the J easy.
Well, I like to think that there are 15 different universes where you got it wrong, but I'm so glad to live in this one.
Well, we're in the right multiverse where Andy got it right. So.
The luckiest timeline.
So one more question then before I hop off. Sure. Why do you guys think that there is so much pushback against this method if it is truly useful in practice?
Well, I think that's a great question. I think the big reason is because it's so dense. So the world of Jungian analysis and Freud and Lacan and a bunch of other people is depth psychology. It's not self-help. It's not something that you can just pick up and go, hell yeah, method, I can apply it, here we go. It's very, very, very dense. I mean, the big joke with the world of Jung is we don't read Jung, we read about Jung. Because it's so complex. It's like too much. So I think a big pushback is well, firstly, he was interested in some very out there shit. That's number one, his life. Number two is that it's so dense and specific to him, subjective to him, that it's hard for, the regular Joe to just pick it up and be like, oh, cool. This is what the anima is. This is what the collective unconscious is. So I think it's just so dense that people get overwhelmed.
And I think it's also just been around long enough for a lot of people to sit in college dorm rooms smoking a joint and talk about it and convince themselves that they understand it, and then continue to propagate ideas that are increasingly divorced from the actual science of the thing.
Yes, I think that's true. It sounds like fun.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying keep it in perspective. You want to invite me to your dorm room, Andy? I'm here for it.
Have a coffee chill time with everyone together and say,
sure,
what was real? What did we just experience last night?
What are we even doing here, man?
I think that's real. I think that's true. Yeah.
Well, Nate, I appreciate you giving us the call. I hope that we were able to clear some of that up for you.
Yes, that was interesting. I was really interested to hear a rebuttal to the Myers-Briggs thing because all I have to go on as a layperson is what I see on the internet, and like I said, it kind of looked to me like astrology. I don't know if you've ever seen the James Randi experiment where he gives people a survey and asks them to fill out, well, what do you think about yourself? And then he's like, yeah, you all got the same test. So, but no, that was useful. So, great show. And thank you for taking my call.
I appreciate you, friend. You have a great night.